101 ESPN.
Let's get right to it here on the Bernie Miklasz Show with Brian Feldman. ESPN is doing its Grapefruit Express tour, and our friend from way back when, Tim Kurkjian of ESPN, is with us. And you've got to go do something soon, so we better yap now and get it done so you can get out of here and go do your job. How are you, sir?
I'm good. This bus tour is really going well. We drive around in this ridiculous bus with our pictures on the side.
Who doesn't want a big picture of themselves on the side of a bus?
That's my first picture on a bus, and hopefully, for everyone's sake, it'll be the last.
When the Post-Dispatch hired me to write a column in '89, they actually put this long photo that literally went the length of a bus of me. And the first time I saw one of those things, I was standing in a street corner downtown St. Louis. I was just horrified. I wanted to just run away from it.
Well, fortunately, there are like 6 or 7 faces on the bus, and I think we all could use a different picture, and some of us could use a different face, believe me.
Hey, Tim, given the buildup of in advance of Mark McGwire and what spring training would be like with the Cardinals, look, I was one of the people who was expressing concern that this thing could be a circus and it could be some disruptions. I'm stunned by how quiet it is and how normal of a camp it is. Are you?
I am. And when I asked the guys who were here the first day what was it like, and they said far less than we thought it was going to be, that was surprising also. I thought he would have to have another major press conference so all the New York writers could get in there and fire away at him. And his representative said, we're not going to do that. And I thought it was a mistake. And as it turns out, it's been pretty calm so far. I think maybe it comes down to this, fellas. He's the hitting coach, okay? He's not the starting first baseman, all right? I think there's a big difference there. And when you look at how A-Rod, got through the entire season playing every single day, that went away pretty quickly. And by the end of the year, especially through the World Series, you never heard a word about it. So the good thing is, as terrible as these controversies are, they all go away because something always replaces them.
And he was very accessible the first couple days and said, you ask me anything, I'll stay here as long as you want. So even though it wasn't a formal press conference per se, it had the same effect.
Right.
And so it worked out well for him. Now, his brother's coming out with a book soon, but I've been told by someone who read it that an advance copy, there's nothing in there that's really hurtful to Mark McGwire. In fact, the person was surprised that Jay McGuire actually just pretty much wrote about himself. He pulled back. Whatever punches we thought he was going to throw at his brother, apparently he held his punches. I guess we'll wait and see till it's actually published. But,
right. But ultimately, that's what a brother's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And if you write a book about your brother and then you blast him in it, I'm not sure that's a really good brother there. So
right.
I'll have to read the book first before we comment on that.
ESPN's Tim Kurkjian joining us here on the Bernie Miklasz Show on 101 ESPN. I'm Brian Feldman sitting in with Bernie for this week. Tim, from an actual baseball perspective, let's look at this National League Central Division, and it's looked at right now as the Cardinals should be the heavy favorites. What would have to happen in your minds for the Cardinals not to win this division? I mean, there's the Brewers, who had really bad pitching last year. They add Randy Wolf and Doug Davis. The Cubs just had a lot of things go wrong. I mean, where do you see things in the
Well,
Central?
I think the only way this isn't going to happen is if the Cubs somehow, all the guys going in the wrong direction, Carlos Zambrano, Alfonso Soriano, suddenly right themselves and start going in the right direction, and that's a whole bunch of them. And the Cardinals would have to play poorly. That is, the bullpen breaks down like it did a little bit in the postseason, and they don't find a third baseman, and the shortstop's injury is a little worse than we thought. All these, and they can't find a fifth starter or whatever. All these things would have to happen for them to not make it. But in the end, this is a pretty good team, and I look at both leagues now. I see 4 really good teams. I see the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Cardinals. And I'm not sure who the 5th team is out there, but I spot 4 teams that I'm fairly confident are going to the playoffs, and the Cardinals are one of them.
You think the way that last year ended, just the disappointment is just going to drive them for now? Because, Tony's back. He signed the 1-year deal. They get Holiday done, and they know. And even in their first pre-camp meeting today, I mean, for the first time in really a long time, Tony actually had other players and, front office type speak. the time is now. I mean, they have what it takes to win the World Series.
I agree, and I think last year will serve as some sort of motivation because it wasn't just that they lost; it's because they were the favorites going in. They were my favorite going in. I didn't see how you could beat Carpenter and Wainwright in a short series like that. And for the way it ended with Matt Holliday, he's going to be fired up, and Albert's going to be even better if that's possible. Every year you think, hey, he can't get any better, and then he does. So I think they're the prohibitive favorites, and for good reason.
A couple more minutes with Tim Kurkjian of ESPN with us on the Bernie Show, 101 ESPN. In the NL Central, as far as the competition, we always look towards the Cubs, but seems to be a little bit of a rumble. People maybe like Cincinnati as a surprise team. And when I say surprise, I don't mean necessarily to capture the division, but maybe be better than expected, maybe give a little bit of a push to the Cardinals if the Cardinals aren't as good. Do you see anything in Cincinnati that they've got anything going?
I'm not buying it because Edison Volquez, who's their best pitcher, won't be back until July at the earliest. This Aroldis Chapman kid that they signed has a chance someday to be a star, a number one starter, but everyone who I've talked to says he's going to start at Double-A, so I don't expect him to come up. And they're a weak offensive club, and they were last year. I thought Johnny Damon would have fit in, even though he's not a National League-style player. They re-signed Johnny Gomes, but they're still a bat short for me. So I don't think they contend in this division. I don't think Pittsburgh does. Houston doesn't. I mean, the Brewers maybe, but I don't think so. I think the Cubs are the opportunity, and again, a lot of things are going to have to happen there. And
getting Milton Bradley out of there, I mean, what kind of it's an intangible, but what kind of benefit will they realize from that? I mean, in other words, are we in St. Louis, if we're being homers a little bit, are we underestimating that factor with the Cubs?
I think that is a factor, certainly. And I think, like you said about the time is now for the Cardinals. The time is now for the Cubs, too, after a disappointing last season.
Derek Lee's a free agent,
exactly. Knowing people could be moving on, knowing we have to pay these guys what we have to pay them, they're going to have to win before long, and they're running out of time. And I'm telling you, Lou is running out of time also because he has no interest in just hanging around and losing. And if he doesn't win soon, he's going to pick up and go somewhere else.
Tim Kurkjian, as always, you're very kind. You never say no. We appreciate you sitting down. Good luck with the Grapefruit Express. We'll be seeing you on ESPN, reading you on ESPN.com, and the magazine as well. So.
Well, check out the bus and have a good laugh at us. Okay?
Yeah, that's all right.
We're going to get a 101 ESPN bus.
That's Tim Kurkjian here on 101 ESPN.